I know I said last time I was going to take a break from the religion videos. However, I saw something that I just could not get out of my head, and therefore I needed to make a commentary. Look, Pete Holmes, there's nothing wrong with doing jokes about atheists or at the expense of atheists, but if you're going to, at the very least make sure you know what you're talking about.
But I, personally, I'm so tired of comedians burning down a straw man, making fun of people who believe in God, being like, do you really think a talking snake gave a naked lady an apple? I'm like, come on, it's a metaphor, Ricky. Always true, sometimes really happens. You understand?
Criticizing a group you aren't a part of, or in that case asking a question, seriously, there was no attack there, is not the same as going after a straw man. Because the fact is, there are people who do believe that Adam and Eve were real historical figures that literally got a piece of fruit from a talking snake. Answers in Genesis, the Young Earth Creationist organization, comes to mind as an example, with their page on the topic saying, "The Bible confirms the historicity of Adam and Eve. They were real people, specifically created by God, and every person born is related to them. Moreover, there is nothing in scientific research that has been able to disprove the existence of Adam and Eve. Most importantly, the gospel is dependent upon an actual Adam and Eve, both in the New Testament, Romans 5:12 through 14, and in the Old Testament, we see a historical Adam and Eve connected to the promised Messiah. When God judged the serpent after the fall, there was a glimmer of hope that he hid in the judgment. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Theologians understand this offspring of the woman to be none other than Jesus Christ. And just as Eve found hope in God's promised offspring, so also we look to God's promised offspring of redemption, the Lord Jesus Christ. I was also able to find articles from both Catholic Answers and the Gospel Coalition, saying the view you are currently calling a straw man. Now, if you personally take the view that story was meant metaphorically, that is perfectly fine. However, you can't just declare views you disagree with straw men.
Like, my God is not an old man in the sky. It's a metaphor for a mystery that absolutely transcends all categories of human thought, including being and non-being, but that's too many words for the back of a quarter. That's Joseph Campbell.
Well, that's perfectly fine and all, but you still have to contend with the fact that there are a large number of theists who do literally believe exactly what you just derided. Psychology Today has an article specifically by somebody who used to take that exact belief, albeit they were also a child at the time, because it's a very common depiction within media.
But it doesn't matter. If you're an atheist or a theist, I actually think we're all kind of in the same boat. Really, I do. Some people think God created the universe. Some people think nothing created the universe, which is the funniest guess. And the nothing people make fun of the God people. They say God doesn't exist. I'm like, okay, maybe. But you know what definitely doesn't exist? Nothing. That's the defining characteristic of nothing, is that it doesn't exist. So what are we talking about? Either you think it's God, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove, or you think it's nothing, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove. But I think we can all agree, if your nothing sometimes spontaneously erupts into everything, that's a pretty goddamn magical fucking nothing, you guys.
What do you mean by this statement? Or I guess I should say, what do you think we mean by that statement? Do you think we mean there was a literal nothingness that somehow managed to create? Or do you think we mean nothing was created? Because nothingness is not a property that exists, it's just the absence of things. You say we believe that nothing turned into everything. Well, does that everything include space, for example? Because if so, how could you have nothingness without a space for there to be nothing? Could you include time into the list of things that was created? Because, again, if so, how can you have nothing if there was not a moment in time with nothing? Is it even truly possible for nothingness to exist as is commonly understood in the context you are discussing? Because when somebody says there's nothing there, they mean a particular space is empty at a particular moment in time. But if you don't have space and time, such a statement becomes incoherent. But if you do have space and time, well, right there we have two things: space and time. Good night and good luck.